Hello, this is Paul from Now Gamer.
And this is Adam.
This is the latest episode of Indecent Exposure, where we try and introduce you to some indie games that you might not have heard of.
Now, the first one that you've been playing, Paul, is Sunless Sea. And all I really know about it is that it has boats in it.
Yes, it does have boats in it. It's basically an exploration game. It's in early access at the moment. It's set in a world that I suppose you'd describe as Lovecraftian. You start off with a boat in old London, and you are then exploring the world, discovering new places. It's kind of hard to describe what the objective of the game is, partly for the reason that you can choose what the objective of the game is. You can choose to complete it via building up a story, by collecting stories from across the world. You can choose to win it by wealth. And then there's a variety of other more specific objectives that are locked off early on. But find your father's bones or something like that. Some odd one.
Is there an ultimate end goal to it then, or is it just quite free from?
Yeah, as far as I can determine, you choose one of those goals. You can keep going once you've achieved that goal, or you can retire. And then I presume you can then restart again and then try and achieve one of the other objectives. It's also it's when you die, you are dead in this, so it's got that sort of roguelike element. It's got a thing that's similar to Rogue Legacy, whereby you will be able to pass things on from one character to the next after you die.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, you can choose to keep an officer that you've hired or acquired during your travels. You can keep certain skills that you've obtained and pass that on to the next generation.
What's the general gameplay then? What exactly do you do in the game?
So you're travelling from place to place, exploring stuff. You will get involved in battles with sea creatures and pirates and so on, which are basically turn-based battles, based on, because this world's constantly at night, so it's based on using moves that illuminate your target and using so that you can spot them basically, and using moves that damage them. And then once you discover a place, it almost becomes, when you can dock there, and it almost becomes a kind of text adventure. It's actually very well written, like the text part is very evocative of the places, and you can click what you want to do. Do you want to go and visit this place, or go off cavorting in the town, and you'll gain stuff from that, or you may gain stuff that's negative towards you. There's a terror meter that you have. You may gain a story, and you can then take that story to another place, and for example, the University at London, and give them a story that you've got from a place, and you will gain some benefit for that. You can take news and share that in other places, and you will gain some benefit to that. And you need various, you have to meet certain conditions to achieve certain objectives across the place. I mean, still, you can see there's a lot to it, but as I say, it's in early access, so I think it's going to be a really sort of complex game where you're upgrading ships, collecting stuff, trading, all this kind of stuff. But it seems like there's quite a lot there already. And I'm sure
it sounds like there's a lot to do already. So.
It seems quite cool. So anyone who's interested, Sunless Sea in alpha at the moment. It's $14.99 on Steam.
Okay, the next one that I've been playing is Halfway, which is a turn-based strategy RPG.
Now, I saw you playing this briefly, and it reminded me very much of XCOM.
That's probably the most obvious touchstone for it. So anyone who's played XCOM Enemy Unknown will probably know this quite well, but you have shield, full shield and half shield to represent the cover, and you can move and shoot, or you can move, or you can shoot. But with increased accuracy. So it's very simple in that regard. You can do a very core set of actions each turn, and it's very simple to understand. But it's got a good amount of depth and strategy to it. The general story of the game is that you wake up stranded on a spaceship, and it seems like the crew have been mutated or become zombies. It's all very cliched in that regard, and admittedly the dialogue and the writing isn't the best, but it's still enough to keep you going and draw you in. And you unlock a bunch of different characters as you play, and you can customize them with extra gear and different types of ammunition and weapons and grenades and things like that.
Is that stuff that you earn through achieving certain objectives or buy? Or?
You can buy some things from a store. You find a base that you can hide out on and rest and recuperate and customize your team, and you can buy stuff from there. But primarily you're going to be finding them out in the field, so you'll have lockers and chests and things like that dotted around, and there's a little bit of exploration in between the fights. So there's plenty to be looking at, and once a level is complete, it'll ask you if you want to quit or if you want to keep exploring. And quite often there's an extra little hidden area that you can get some new unique weapons or extras. Admittedly, there's not actually that much more to it, but if you like turn-based RPGs or strategy games, then you'll probably like this one as well. The art style is quite nice. I mean, it's pixel art, so it's pretty much every indie game ever, but it does look nice, and it's got a nice little atmosphere to it. And yeah, so if you like turn-based RPGs, this is Halfway. It's out now for $9.99. And the last one we've got this time around is The Fall, which again, Paul, you've been playing.
Yeah, it looks sort of like a 2D Dead Space. It reminded me a bit of the Swapper as well. But it's basically a point-and-click adventure game disguised as something else. It's 2D and you moving from left to right. And there is combat in it, which you do using the mouse, simple aiming with the mouse. But you also shine your torch onto objects, and then you can pick them up, interact with them. Later on you get an ability to network with certain objects, because you're a robot, just to make that clear. And you're basically solving puzzles. That is really what the game is, even though it may not look like that.
So you said it looked a lot like Dead Space. Is there any kind of relevance there? Is it a horror game or?
It's got a little bit of that atmosphere to it, but as you know, I am terrified of horror games, and this game doesn't scare me. So I would not say that it really is a horror game, even though it's all very dark and it's got that atmosphere to it. But it's also got some Metroidvania elements in it, in that you gain certain abilities as you go on that you need to progress. All that's based around the fact that you're basically a robot that's controlling this suit that a pilot inside, and that the pilot's unconscious and badly injured. So the robot that you control is taking over the suit to try and get this person medical attention. Their primary objective is to protect their human pilot. Because you're a robot, there's certain rules that robot has to follow, and it becomes a way of having to use logic and technicalities to try and break rules to unlock new abilities.
Okay.
So, for example, deliberately putting the human in danger to give you an override access to gain a new ability is one example. So it's quite nice the way it ties the narrative into the Metroidvania mechanics of it.
Yeah. So how does the combat actually play out then? Is it a big part of the game?
Well, it's kind of cover based. So you go into cover, you wait for the enemy to shoot, and then when it's clear, you can pop out and aim. It's probably not the strongest element of the game, and I would say it's a little bit fiddly to control in general. Sort of using the mouse and keyboard, it's not great in that regard. But I wouldn't say it does any great harm to it. And the combat's a nice way of breaking up the puzzles. But yeah, it's interesting as a puzzle game. Quite a nice looking game actually, and with some cool ideas the way it mixes those mechanics together, and an intriguing story as well. So yes, cool little game.
So that's The Fall, and it's out now, $6.99.